The flare gun bucked against my shoulder, a solid whump that sent a jolt through my already broken ribs. A fiery streak shot across the clearing, and for a heart-stopping moment I thought it missed. Then it hit, dead center in the creature's chest. Nothing happened. Its momentum didn't even slow, those terrible talons still reaching for my throat. Then the flare ignited. The night turned into day. 2,000 degrees of burning magnesium seared into its flesh. The creature's shriek of rage turned into something else entirely. Pure, absolute agony. The sound was so intense it felt like it was tearing the world apart. Birds erupted from trees 100 yards away. The monster staggered back, clawing at its own chest where the flare was now burning with the intensity of a miniature sun. Its skin bubbled and sloughed off in chunks. Black ichor sprayed from the wound, hissing where it hit the ground. The smell, oh God, the smell was overwhelming. Burning hair, rotten meat, and something acidic and chemical, like burning plastic mixed with sulfur. But it wasn't dying. I watched in horror. It wasn't dying. It was just getting angrier. With a roar that was no longer pain but pure, undiluted rage, the creature ripped the still-burning flare from its chest. It crushed it in its fist, magnesium fire squeezing between its fingers like molten lava. It held up its hand, a ruined, charred mess of flesh and exposed bone. It looked at its hand. Then it looked at me. The shriek that followed was a promise of a slow, methodical, and painful end. It lunged, but its movements were wild, uncoordinated. Black fluid wept from its eyes. It was blinded. The magnesium flash had seared its retinas. It couldn't see me, but I knew it could smell me, hear the ragged gasps of my breath, track the heat of my body. My mind went blank. All instinct took over. I ran. I sprinted for a narrow gap in the brambles at the edge of the clearing. It was maybe 18 inches wide, barely enough for a person, and far too small for a 9-foot monster. I hit the gap at full speed, thorns tearing through my jacket and skin, ripping into my arms and face. Behind me, the creature slammed into the wall of thorns, too wide to get through. For a split second I thought I was safe. Then came the sound of tearing. It wasn't trying to fit through the gap. It was making the gap bigger. Its talons shredded the brambles like they were cobwebs. Raw, brute strength ripped the vegetation apart. I burst out the other side and found myself on a steep, dark slope. I didn't even try to run down it. I just fell. I tumbled head over heels, my body slamming into rocks and roots, collecting a fresh set of bruises and cuts. My backpack was torn free, vanishing into the darkness below. My father's canteen, my last link to him, bounced away and was gone. I hit the bottom hard, the impact knocking the wind from my lungs. Above me, the creature's shrieks of rage were fading, growing more distant. Gasping for air, I forced myself to my feet, swaying. I realized I'd landed on some kind of old trail. It was overgrown, barely visible, but it was there. A path, human-made. Maybe an old logging road. I didn't care what it was. I just ran. I don't know if I ran for minutes or hours. Time had lost all meaning. My body was running on nothing but fumes, pure adrenaline and animal terror. My conscious mind had just shut down. There was only one thought: keep moving. Behind me, the shrieks had stopped. But the silence was so much worse. Silence meant it had changed tactics. Silence meant it was hunting me. Patiently. Quietly. My foot hit something hard. Gravel. I looked down, my eyes struggling to focus. It was a road. A real road. Pitted and overgrown, but I could see the faint remains of a yellow line painted down the middle. And in the distance, maybe half a mile away, lights. Headlights. A vehicle was coming. I staggered into the middle of the road, waving my arms, my voice a broken, desperate rasp. "Stop! Please! Stop!" A massive logging truck screeched to a halt. its air brakes hissing in the dead of night. The driver's door flew open. A bearded man in a flannel shirt jumped out, his eyes widening in shock as he took in my blood-soaked, battered form. "Jesus Christ, what happened to you?" I didn't let him finish. I grabbed him by the shirt, my grip surprisingly strong. "Drive," I croaked. "Drive now." "Sir, you need medical attention. We should call—" From the forest behind us, it came again. A wet, rattling scream of pure rage. It was closer. Much, much closer than it should have been. The trucker's face went white as a sheet. "What the hell was—" "Drive or we both die!" We scrambled into the cab. He didn't need to be told twice. He floored it, the huge engine roaring to life, gravel spraying from under the tires. As we sped away, I dared to look back through the rear window. And there it was. At the edge of the tree line, silhouetted in our red taillights, the creature stood. Its chest was a crater of burned, ruined flesh, black ichor still dripping to the ground. Its eyes, which had been weeping black tears, were glowing again. Dimly at first, but growing brighter. Its vision was returning. It stood perfectly still, watching us go. And then, a final chilling message drilled directly into my skull. A voice that wasn't a voice. "You are marked. Now. You are marked. I will always return. They always return to Xylos." Then, with a smooth, deliberate movement, it turned and melted back into the forest. A nightmare returning to its lair. But I knew, deep in my soul, it wasn't going back to sleep. Not anymore. Never again. Thank you so much for listening to this part of the story. If you're on the edge of your seat and need to know what happens next, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss the conclusion. Stay safe out there. 3 months after my expedition, they found me. Or what was left of me. I was in St. Helena Psychiatric Hospital, my hands bandaged to stop me from clawing out the voice in my head. That wet, chittering sound. It was always there, whispering in the dark. The doctors called it a psychotic break. Dehydration, exposure, trauma. They said my mind invented the creature, the tower, the ancient city of Xylos, just to cope with being lost in the wilderness for 3 days. They sent a whole team back to my coordinates. Ground-penetrating radar, archaeologists, even cadaver dogs. 2 weeks they searched. They found nothing. No monolith, no ruins, not even the warning stones I'd seen so clearly. Just miles of dense, old-growth forest, untouched by human hands. It was as if Xylos had wiped itself from the map, from history itself. But I knew. The doctors could call it delusion, but every night, as the sun went down, I'd hear it. That chittering laughter, just at the edge of my hearing. And in my dreams, God, in my dreams, I saw those red eyes, burning from the corner of my room, watching me, waiting. I'd hear its voice, a broken, grating whisper. "You return. They always return." They just upped my medication. Dr. Peterson, my psychiatrist, would pat my shoulder and say, "Alistair, you're safe now. You're in Oslo, hundreds of miles from that forest." But I knew distance meant nothing. It had marked me. I'd stare out the window into the darkness and whisper back, "It's waiting. It knows where I am. It's waiting." 6 months later, they let me out. Stable, they called me. Medicated, manageable. I moved into a small apartment in the busiest part of Oslo. I surrounded myself with lights that never went out, with the noise of a city that never slept. I needed to be as far from the forest, from the mountains, from the quiet dark, as possible. I told myself it was over, that it was just a fever dream born from dehydration and fear. And for a while I almost believed it. I got a teaching job at the university. No more expeditions, just lectures, safe, boring lectures about other people's discoveries. The months passed, and slowly the dreams began to fade. The chittering whispers fell silent. I started to sleep through the night. I even started dating someone, a wonderful woman from the linguistics department. Coffee, dinners. It felt so normal, so human. I was becoming myself again. I told her I'd had a difficult expedition, and she didn't push. The memories of Xylos, of those eyes, of that terrifying laugh, were finally starting to blur. The doctors had been right all along. It was just trauma. I was going to be okay. And then the package arrived. It showed up on a Monday morning. Just a plain brown paper parcel on my doorstep. No return address, no postage. Security footage showed nothing, no one approaching my door. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely open it. Inside was a single photograph. My heart stopped. It was the entrance to Xylos, the black basalt tower piercing the sky, exactly as I remembered it. And in the foreground was me. My back to the camera, my hand reaching out to touch the warning carvings on the stone. But that was impossible. I was alone. I was obsessively, paranoidly alone. I checked every shadow, every sound. There was no one there to take that picture. Unless... With trembling fingers I flipped the photo over. Scrawled on the back was a message, written in a spidery, unnatural script that made my head ache just to look at it. It said, "The monolith misses its scholar. Come home." And below the words was a fingerprint, too large to be human. It was pressed so hard into the photo paper that it dented the cardboard behind it. At the very tip of the print was a dark, crescent-shaped stain. It looked like dried blood. My hand flew to my neck, to the faint scar I still had from the hospital, from when I'd tried to scratch the voice out of my own head. I knew what that stain was. It was my blood. From 3 months ago. That thing, that creature, it had kept it, saved it, like a souvenir, like a promise. It wasn't waiting anymore. It was calling me back. Thank you so much for listening to this story. If you were as captivated as I was, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the edge of reality. I'd love to hear your theories in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and maybe keep a light on tonight.